Well, hello, and welcome to Gallifrey's Most Wanted. I'm Ross Aiken. I'm old who.
My name is Melvin Pena, and I represent You Who.
And I'm thinking of Hair of the Hound at this difficult time.
I'm
All
not
right,
gonna lie.
folks.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was upset literally every
Uh,
time they said the word Conrad, and I'm like, not in reference to this guy.
well, let's wait until after we talk about it, and then
Yeah.
talk about the Conrad we love and the Conrad we think's a prick. So we're covering what is this? Episode 5?
Four.
Episode,
Yeah, yeah.
episode 5 of this season, and it is
4.
called Lucky Day.
It's still 4.
4. It is 4. Oh, I'm counting the Christmas one. Counting the Christmas one.
Yeah,
That's
well,
right.
we can do that too.
Yeah. Okay. But we're covering Lucky Day, which is the Dr. Light episode for this season. And I'm going to go last. So I'll let Melvin go first this time.
I was really, really conflicted about this episode. Not in a, did I like this or did I hate this sort of way, but like, man, Doctor Who it's been this one was recorded, they said in 2023, I think, or like right after Robot Revolution. Because I know they were doing
same block. Yeah.
Because I know that they were doing the well in like January 2024 or whatever. So like anyways, it's the fact that it was recorded, that it was written, that it was all in the books, like so to speak, a couple of years ago. It just really made me, I don't know, it made me upset, and watching Stefan Powell Unleashed and hearing RTD talk about, we want to be contemporary. We want to look at, what are issues that we can sort of allegorize or, sort of transform, through a Doctor Who lens to look at. But when it's, social media, right-wing echo chambers, like that is, and it's not even really disguised, that is what it is, that's something, it just hits so close to home right now. All the stuff about techno-fascists demanding, quote, transparency in government spending. I mean, that's the enemy here, and that's what's it's happening to us every day, that the Conrad character is our enemy right now, and he is, it's so weird. He is our enemy, and he is in control of our government, like here in the US anyway, like, and whether you want to call it, the ADF in Germany or the Republican Party here in the US or the Tories, or
no,
whatever,
reform,
whatever you want to call them.
They have it. Jeff's
whatever you want to call them in the UK.
Like reform.
Reform.
There
definitely reform. They've got their own little version of it.
It is so of the moment that it is looking at his face, especially after the twist. Like I gasped.
God damn,
I gasped
twist,
when that happened.
Yeah.
When he turned there in the village, when Conrad turned and exposed who he was, it was just it's so close to home, and it's so right now, it's so of the moment that I was like, I don't know that I find this entertaining, so that's what I mean about, me being conflicted. Again, as an episode of Doctor Who, I thought it was fantastic. It was pacey. The Dr. Light stuff, it felt like I don't know about y'all, but it felt like 1970s. And I know Pete McTighe is so deep in the collection box sets, and he does that wonderful work with the trailers for those things. Like, he's so steeped in Doctor Who. He gets it so intrinsically and so inherently down to its bones that it felt like this was a 1970s sort of Pertwee Doctor Who story, but if they had been able to do a Dr. Light story. And that was really, because again, the guy from the Ministry, like all this kind of bureaucracy stuff that we're dealing with, but from the sort of, in a very contemporary way. I'm sorry, I've got lots and lots and lots of thoughts about this. And again, I just want to make sure that I get out there that, I felt a way about this episode, and I'm really looking forward to sort of untangling that with y'all, because again, I thought it was great Doctor Who. It was really really a great achievement in what a Dr. Light episode can do, what it can be, what it can say. But yeah, I don't want to go on forever and ever, because y'all know I will. But yeah,
I think we have some stuff. Let's get Jeff's overall, then mine, and then we're gonna go. There's some of these things you talked about that I think we all want to talk about.
Yep.
So Jeff, what's your basic take? Sorry,
you've got to come at it from a twofold approach, and I agree with Melvin that episode left me feeling not only that I'd watched a good episode of Doctor Who, but also that is this something that I can ever actually watch again?
Yeah.
Because it leaves you with a feeling of impotence.
Yep.
That you can do nothing in the face of denial and denialists. We've just had Russell Brand turn up in court for something unrelated, but he was very present in my mind watching this episode. That same sort of
he's part,
just I know better than everyone else because I do. And there's actually nothing there to reinforce that. So it left me feeling a sense of impotent rage and anger. I found it very triggering throughout. From a Doctor Who point of view, we've got a double sort of sequel here. We've got a tonal sequel in sort of a redo of Love and Monsters, but a Love and Monsters for a very different time and a very different audience,
the world has
and
changed.
taking that camp right out of it, really. And it's also a sequel to Robot, with Think Tank making a re-emergence. The Scientific Reform Society.
I didn't even fucking catch that till you
That's
just
great.
said it.
And there's Pete McTighe again, just like so, like he leaves the tea bag in. Like it's been sitting there for like however long. What is it, like 40, 45? Sort of our age-ish. Like that tea bag has been steeping.
Oh my God. I was looking for other things, but wow. But go on, Jeff.
Keep going. Yeah.
But I mean, Millie Gibson proves once again how good she actually is. And yes, she has kind of been overshadowed in my memory a little bit by Belinda this season because she is so good. But actually, a little reminder as to why I love Millie Gibson, and she was my in to the last series, doesn't go amiss. I wish someone had mentioned the companion support group at least once in this episode.
Because we'd all be going to that meeting.
But she just makes you want to give her a big hug and go, do you know what, mate? It's going to be all right. Just take some time for yourself. She's really good. Really good.
It's one of the great acting performances.
I was a little taken out of it because the elephant in the room is we're all friends with poor Conrad Westmus. And having a character named Conrad, it's a unique and unusual name. It doesn't crop up a lot in sort of contemporary things. So actually knowing a Conrad and spending time with a Conrad who is possibly the most delightful human being on earth.
One of the sweetest people in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And having a character who you just hate, and every time they say his name, you go, and there's a momentary disconnect that took me out of the episode a little bit. But that's my problem for having a friend called Conrad.
And even more than that, every time he would move his face would move, and the little dimple would appear on his right cheek. I wanted to slap it off his face. Like like the rage that I had against this guy was so intense.
Good at playing this part, but he could get very seriously typecast as a total
which is bizarre because
in
the Stefan Powell Unleashed, he was talking about how afraid he was going to be typecast as like leading man prince kind of character, and I'm like, it's crazy how you can flip that. Because he's really good. He's really good.
Well,
I wanted to slap that dimple off his face every time.
I thought of throat punching him about the second half. All I was doing, when would I kick him in the shit? But I'm of the same vein as you guys. I think it was one of the best hours of television that I've seen in a few years. I wanted Peter McTighe, yes, and the director. This is so fucking different than Robot Revolution, and that he did them back to back. Peter Hoare, that this is his third. His first one was Good Man Goes to War, which is one I enjoy. I don't think it's the greatest Doctor Who, but it's well made, well directed. But as it was triggering, because I have a lot, and I'm not going to go too deep into. The manosphere bothers me, and this is me as the oldest of us by a bit. Is that I understand why there are a lot of men that have fallen into that rabbit hole. I have sympathy for him, but my sympathy ends at pull your head out of your own fucking ass. Stop being willfully ignorant and a danger to the rest of us by your willing denialism. This whole thing about I know better because it's, you know, the poor actor, I kept seeing other people's face on his head at times, thinking sometimes it was RFK Jr., sometimes it was Dorsey, the founder of Twitter. All these just useless pieces of shit.
Pause for a second, Ross, because for me it was Jefferson Griffin, who is the guy who's trying to steal the judicial Supreme Court election here in North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
Every day, like I was looking at his face exactly. I had
it's a different excuse to not have these votes counted.
And for me, it's Nigel Farage. It's the right wingers. And we've just had local elections, which Reform have done better than they should have.
Yeah, I hear that. I saw these headlines, and then I saw it was 1%. It's like, yeah, it's better than none, but it's still only 1%. But be frightened.
But it's better than they should have, and it's all based on rhetoric and empty promises and stupidity and
stirring.
And basically enforcing people's just internalized racism on a massive scale, and that's not just racism. It is a distrust of everyone who is different. And that includes people who are more intelligent than them. We're seeing the American educational infrastructure getting torn apart by the wife of Vince McMahon. It's I mean, what world are we living in here? Surely politics is done by politicians, not celebrities or pseudo celebrities, except they're the people that have people's ears, and it is influencers and TikTokers and Andrew Tate and shows. Russell Brands. And I find it's why I'm only on one social media site anymore, because I find it almost impossible to live my life with this shit going on, with this noise in my ears and this willful stupidity, and so sorry, bit of a rant there.
No, because like but that's the other thing that's infuriating is that the people on the other side, as it were, as though there were you know, distinct and, you know, legitimate things, as they say, on both sides, because the echo chamber that if it is that one that we are in, or that we are constructing for ourselves, is sort of like what Neil deGrasse Tyson said about science. Like, just because you don't believe it, it's still true. Like the things that good
it has nothing to do with belief. It's just fucking math.
It's facts. And again, that the dangerous echo chamber is the one that allows you to live in a fantasy world where what is exactly what you're talking about. I'm sorry I interrupted, but we were both interrupted.
I'm glad you did, because I could have gone on for hours.
Well, I mean, let's just go with, I mean, we've gotten that part of it out, because that's the heavy part of it. And the dangerous part of it, though, and in a way, it's what makes the story work. I want to jump. Let's kind of segue in this, because this episode starts so fucking differently. So differently. It is about her being happy, her finding love. This guy who had a brush with the doctor. We've seen this story a lot. Oh, what's going to happen? They're going to save him. I'm thinking Love and Monsters. And who is the young lady who dresses up as Jodie and does the videos on Instagram? I love her. She's so sweet.
Oh, K.E.G. Angel.
Yes. She put out a video yesterday saying, do not go on social media for this episode. If it has not been spoiled for you, she put a video out. And I went, if she's doing that at 9 o'clock in the fucking morning on Saturday, I stayed off of anything that had Doctor Who stuff on my social media. I just was on my comic one. It was a free comic book day, so I went and supported my local shop, and I was reading comics. I stayed, and then me and Leslie watched The Well. She left, and I waited until later in the night to watch it. And the twist was amazing. I felt tricked. I didn't see some of there were hints. I watched a review today by Josh Anderson. He pointed out some things that I hadn't seen, like, why does he just take a picture of her going into the TARDIS and posts it? He's not really one. If he was a normal one, he'd knock on the door. All these little clues. And then it just got darker.
Yeah.
And darker. And then she saves him, and it's like, no, and he's still an unrepented piece of shit. And he's just worse. And then he's set free by Mrs. Flood. So, this is going to lead.
Or at least that's the implication.
Yeah, that's the implication. So this isn't the penultimate, like, you normally have the setup for the last episode. This is a setup for the end, this is probably one of the most important stories, other than what it's trying to tell us, but for the arc of the season. This has to be part of it. If it isn't, it's a bad choice, because we've seen all of the Doctor's friends at Earth without him pushed over the edge. With him he's not around to help them. He's trying to he doesn't realize he's trying to save the Earth yet. He's starting to know. All he is trying to get Belinda. But we're seeing the effect of him not being around too. I think that's part of it. Because I'm saying this because I want to get to kind of Kate and then talk more about Millie. A lot of people have not liked Kate because they've never given her a lot to do. And I agree with that. I think she's been underused. Not anymore. This is what happens when she's human. She goes too far, but they're telling you she's going too far. But I understand every bit of it. She's trying to protect everybody. And I thought she was wonderful.
I don't think she's been underused. I think she's been underserved.
Thank you. Better word. I'll agree with you on
that. This is the first time, actually, that the Brigadier's name has been raised, and I've actually felt that kick in the gut that Nick Courtney isn't here.
I felt like I would have hit him at that point. You take the breaks. Yeah. Basically, it'd be a Will Smith, Chris Rock moment.
Mm-hmm.
She should have just gone up and slapped him.
Mm-hmm.
Take my father's name out of your mouth.
Slap the taste out of his mouth.
Yeah,
she can't do that.
But she'll let a monster eat him.
Yeah,
but she only had she had to do that to prove to him and to prove to the world that was watching.
Yeah, no, I agree with her choices.
They are valuable, and that was a necessary thing. I think Kate had to go to that edge, and it shows how determined she is in the line of her job, and it's the first time that she actually, that's a lie. I think she had some really standout moments during Flux, but this is the first time UNIT has felt as cohesive and as well led as it did during the original UNIT era. It feels like a cohesive whole for the first time, really, and that's been since the specials, and that's really nice, because UNIT has always been underserved, I think, in what it does. It's just been a handy, here's this on Earth, we've got to reintroduce them. I quite like what Chris Chibnall did by pausing them. Sort of talking about funding and what have you.
Yeah,
I like that.
Well, I mean, that comes up again in this one as well. Like, we're gonna investigate your funding. We're gonna look at what it is that you're doing with your money, and that again in that sort of right wing move towards quote transparency, which means just like, we don't want you spending money on what you're spending it on. We want to give tax breaks to billionaires or whatever. But sorry, go ahead.
But Melvin, this is also
because I want to say stuff about Kate and UNIT as well. I'm sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
Well, I know there's one more thing I want to add.
No. That's a perfect segue for you to go on, Melvin, I think.
For me, I hadn't even really done a lot of. I like you, Jeff. Like the first time I saw it, I sort of didn't ever want to watch it again, and I'm like, well, I need to sit with this. I need to look at it again, like especially if it bugs me. So I say I sort of made myself, but I made myself watch it, 4 times just to like get over my sort of reactionary, the feeling of revulsion towards the character of Conrad and towards the mischief that he pulled. But thinking about it more and more, sort of Kate really didn't even cross my mind until listening to the two of you talk about Kate and UNIT. Like, I mean, I saw her and like saw what she did and stuff like that, but like didn't really click into place. Because one of the thoughts that I had was this idea of Colonel Ibrahim telling her that she had gone too far. And I'm like, for who? You know, who is above her in this scenario to make that call? And again, I feel like, thinking about it, especially the fourth time I watched it, I'm like, when Kate has that confrontation with Conrad in the unit ops room, that is Kate's doctor moment. And I don't feel like, I mean, the first time I feel like she had that was when she mic dropped the Cyberman's head to Missy, when she was out of her league. Basically, she was out of her league. This is her league. This is clear and present danger to Earth security, to Earth safety, to the safety of the people around her. Like, in a very immediate sense, the buck stops with her. So what is too far is her determination.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, like, I'm now slotting this into the RTD verse of, you know, Torchwood is beyond, you know, what is it they say in the intros for Torchwood? It's like beyond the law and beyond the government, behind, you know, past the law, whatever that is. Like, they can do things in a way that there are no checks. Kate does represent, I mean, this is the thing about the funding stuff, is that she is answerable to someone. That seems to be, in this episode, they keep saying Geneva over and over again. So, like, the funding, and I'm thinking about, like, you know, we were talking earlier about, you know, right-wing politicians and funding stuff. Like, they just pulled the plug on PBS, on the funding for public broadcasting, for National Public Radio, for all these kinds of things. And I'm thinking about, you know, to what extent is, you know, PBS, our public television, are these public services funded by the public? And the truth is, it's not a gigantic number. It's not a gigantic number in terms of the federal budget. But I'm thinking about that in this
1%.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking about that in this episode, because they keep talking about, well, Geneva. So I'm assuming that most of the funding for UNIT comes from outside of the UK.
Yeah.
So again,
it always did in the original show.
Yes.
Yeah. The original show was always Geneva. It's Hague. The Hague. The World Court.
So again, like, you know, the fact that this right-wing sort of think tank organization is demanding this stuff from her, and doing it sort of with impunity, really sort of irks me. And the fact that Kate and Shirley, who appears in this episode, love Shirley.
I love her.
Saying, look, if you want evidence, I've got plenty of it. Like, no, this is not the time for that. Like, one of the things that again I'm thinking of is, you know, Kate having that doctor moment. Like, there's a parallel in this episode, because Shooty comes in at the end to, you know, lecture Conrad, and I'm like, that felt wrong to me. Like, I felt like Kate's approach was the correct approach to take with Conrad. Like,
I think that's
guys,
Peter McTeague's idea.
Yes,
I think you're exactly right. He
is undercutting the doctor in a weird way.
It's to show that he's, you know, if he was here, would it have ended any better? No, this guy's a nut.
Yes. And so that is the whole thing for me, is trying to wrestle with this, is like, that ending. I'm like, again, you cannot lecture these people. You cannot tell them that you cannot shame them. You know, the doctor tries. He lectures him, and the other part about it is their height differential. And I feel like the director, Peter Hoare, almost like gives you more of that on the close-ups, because the doctor has to look up to Conrad while he's lecturing him. And there's something that is physically and spatially feels discordant about that, because you are trying to talk down to him. You're trying to lecture him, and you cannot do that. Physically, it looks weird to have him looking up at him while he's doing that. But the other thing is, like, he is completely oblivious to all that. None of that affects Conrad at all. What affects Conrad is what really gets him is when the shriek actually, he finally is like, you know, your special effects aren't even that good anymore. And the shriek reaches up and literally bites his arm. I'm like, that is the only way, like, to actually make it impactful to their physical safety, to make it real to them. That's the only way to get through. And that is one of the things that is, I feel, at stake in this episode. And one of the things that I think Pete McTighe and Peter Hoare, as a director, like, that they sort of work together to make that point. And I just want to I wanted to get that out there, because I felt it was like, what is the shortest way with these people? What is the way to get through to them? And it is not to tell them that they're wrong. It's not to shame them. It is to affect their pocketbook. It is to, make them feel physically unsafe. And I just feel like that kind of stuff, it's a hard lesson to put into a Doctor Who episode, and I'm not sure how effectively it's done, because it's not the end. It's not what happens to Conrad.
Although I suspect that he is involved in the culmination of these events.
Yeah.
I heard the names of the final 2 episodes, the wishing something and the reality something or another. And I think that sort of leads back to where we've been saying this whole era has felt off tune with reality to a degree. Although
reality, something's changed in the background.
Yeah.
And however, it's still very real, isn't it?
And just very briefly, I'm sorry, I already know I went on, but I tell people all the time when they're like, "Oh, have you watched Mad Men?" I'm like, no, it's just people being mean, like being cruel to each other. Or exactly. The same thing with Breaking Bad.
Succession and shit like that. I don't. Why am I watching rich people argue? Fuck them.
Exactly. And so one of the things that I always tell people is like, if there's not a robot or an alien, I'm less likely to get engaged by it. And like in this episode, it was exactly that. It was these things that I'm always saying I don't want to watch unless there's a robot or an alien in it. And there's both a robot and an alien in it. And I'm like, okay, I got what I wished for. And I'm like, does it really satisfy me?
Yeah.
We talked last season a few times, I think, about feeling like Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And whilst this is wrapped in Doctor Who's trappings, it is a very thin veneer, and you scratch the surface, and what you have is something more akin to other things Russell T Davies would do and put on TV.
Things that I can't watch because I think they would trigger me.
It is very years and years vibes in this.
Yeah. It's difficult because it's clearly exceptional telly.
Yeah.
Is it exceptional Doctor Who? Doctor Who can be anything for anyone, and it has
been exceptional at times.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But this is very different.
I've talked before about needing Doctor Who as my escapism from all of this, and this is why. It's that impotent rage that I mentioned earlier, where I'm still feeling worked up now. And I think we all 3 of us are, because this episode has left us feeling vulnerable, exposed. You mentioned the sort of coda with the Doctor giving him a ticking off, which felt sort of tacked on to me a little bit and unnecessary. We know the Doctor's stance, but of course it's the Doctor's show, and so the Doctor has to have the words at the end and to have that.
And it's kind of a bookend.
He does bookend it, it's almost a frame device.
It is clunky. It's not that transition is the weakest of several incredibly well done transitions in this episode.
Well, I don't know. I think it's like that on purpose, though, because that first one is when he's traveling with Ruby, and at the end, it's between traveling with Ruby and meeting Belinda. So, like, I feel like it's an off framing device on purpose for that reason. Like, it's supposed to make us feel odd. It was just weird to me on the 4th watch that I'm like, the pre-title sequence, which originally, again, it's like repeat watches give you more information and more detail and different perspectives, which is again that weird thing about the Linda Love and Monsters thing, is that you do see things from an outsider's perspective, and so this one invites you to see things from many different perspectives. You get the Kate perspective, you get the Ruby perspective, you get the Doctor seems weirdly outside of it though, but that the 4th time I watched it, it was like the pre-title sequence. God, it's so upsetting to me thinking about it now. It's like the pre-title sequence is the moment that you see a young white child who is abused by his mother develop a lifelong grievance against people of color and become an England for the English nativist. Like, that is mind-bogglingly weird, because that last thing he says to the Doctor is like, get off my planet. And when I saw that, when I had the subtitles on, he doesn't necessarily say it that way. I mean, you can hear it if you really listen for it, but the "my" is in is in all caps, and I'm like, that's just a weird pre-title sequence. That is the point of that. I'm like, that is
which
unsettling.
which is even more unsettling when you realize that this comes after the end sequence, because he hasn't met Belinda in the end sequence. He has in the beginning sequence. So he knows full well. He knows, and there's also the optics of an imposing, handsome white dude sneering in the face of a black gay guy. And just literally anything the Doctor says just falls on deaf ears. It's like he's got a shield of whiteness and smug contempt about him.
And he knows that too by the end, because Ruby's told him, if he were here now, he would be flirting with you.
Yeah. And I want to, let's talk about I had this thing I want to talk about the transition. Not only was it masterfully done, and what I'm glad I was warned not to, stay off. I appreciate her doing that adamantly. It was an adamant announcement. I was like, wow, if she's out here telling you to, like, screaming at the wind, please don't fuck up your show for yourself. I appreciate the help.
Yeah.
And Millie Gibson, what the emotional wreckage that this character causes was visceral.
Yeah.
And I've said through this since the beginning of this podcast, because as someone who watches this, yes, for escapism, but I am hoping every once in a while see art in it, and art is random. It's all based on the viewer. Absorption. Everybody defines art for themselves. But I think art should have a visceral reaction sometimes. It should make you belly laugh. It should make you cry. It should make you terrified. And it should do what this one does, is show you a bad aspect of your world that needs to be looked at under a microscope, but also the damages it does to good people. And Millie Gibson, I loved her last season. I thought she was great. And she's so good in the one where it's all her, when she's left
73 yards.
Yeah. It's so good. And when I saw her come on, it's like, oh, okay, but Belinda's so neat, kind of like Jeff did. I'm really digging Belinda. I wasn't thinking, but then she started. I knew she was doing a good job before the reveal. But then through the reveal to the end where she says, I just have to go someplace and be alone, Millie Gibson was given a master's class in acting. And I was watching a documentary while I ate my breakfast about David Lean, the movie he didn't finish called Nostromo. And he was talking about actors. I just need actors in film they need to know what they're thinking. They shouldn't make a face. They should know what they're thinking when playing, what the character is thinking when they're saying their lines. This is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. And he's right, because she does that in this. She's not mugging. She never gets all weepy and convulsive. There's no physical thing, but you see every bit of her post-traumatic stress disorder, especially when she admits it to this piece of shit moments before he turns on her. That I'm glad I have you, because I'm going through, I know what's wrong now. And then he laughs. And it's not like, oh, I'm just doing this to tell the truth. It's that this has no regard for her as a human being. And that she's a joke to him. And it just boom, boom. And Millie Gibson, every blow he hits, you see, but it's not overacted. You see every blow and her be the hero that she is, but it's just breaking her down more and breaking her down more.
Well, it's what you've said historically, Ross, about people who have earned their stripes in soap opera. And she's come from soap, and that gives you a very grounded sort of basis, I think, to be able to perform to that level. I think she could lead pretty much any project. She was the lead for this. She's the lead character. She's the most important character. And we see everything sort of through her eyes, even as a witness to Kate. She is Kate's witness. And even she knows when to draw the line against this guy who has done nothing but irreparable harm to her trusty humanity and trust in people. I think as someone who definitely skirts around the edges of PTSD in a lot of my life, and does a lot of avoidance and stuff. Seeing that sort of writ large on screen and done so well, it just further adds to why this is a very difficult watch. I think it's a necessary watch, but it's a difficult watch, and it's not. Yeah, no, it's not one I'm keen to revisit urgently, but not to say that I haven't appreciated it.
Especially
and because of her, because she's just a star in my
give her
eyes.
I think whatever. Give her if this is one of those things where I watch science fiction on television, which does not get a lot of respect when it comes to accolades, but that's a BAFTA winning award. That's an Emmy winning performance. It's like I joke when I see Patrick Stewart of Big Stars when they're in their old TV shows. It's like, dude, this is just Star Trek. You don't have to act that hard. This is Doctor Who. You normally don't have to act that hard. And she's standing next to a Redgrave.
Yeah, that's true.
In them is genetically impossible to be a bad actor. I mean, it's just, I've never seen one of them who wasn't better than the other person on screen with them. And I want to say that I'm going to put a light mode while it's in my head. One of my favorite lines in this is Ruth's line. Do you collect moms? That's 3.
But that also underscores what I was about to say, which is, when Jeff is talking about the PTSD and how Ruby is acting her way through this scenario. It's like because I am familiar with this stuff myself, and the idea of investing emotionally in someone that you trust, and the feeling of betrayal. I don't know, she says, at the end, like, and you can see that's true for her, that there's a sense in which she does want to sort of get away, change her circumstances, change the sensation, which is how I heard it in a group therapy setting one time, like literally change what the atmosphere, what your surroundings are, to find some sort of like break from that sort of rut of feeling and rumination or whatever. But the sense of betrayal, like that she has been personally, individually, catastrophically, intimately betrayed. It does flush out, like, I haven't come to terms with all those other things as well, but like that is it is such a hard thing to come back from. It is such a hard thing to get around. It's such a hard thing to move past, because it makes making that emotional, psychological investment in another person that much more difficult. So the fact that she still does have those, I think that's one of the reasons that Shirley brings that up, is like to reinforce that she isn't flying from everything that is familiar to her because of this betrayal. Like that she does still have roots, that are deep roots, that this betrayal hasn't put her off of everything. And that's one of the reasons I feel like we were y'all were talking about the companion support group at the beginning, and I don't think that's it's not a flippant thing, but that this is, and RTD says in either it was the behind the scenes or the Stefan Powell Unleashed that idea of companion survivor guilt, in a way, or the trauma of that is something that Doctor Who has never really fully touched on. We've touched on it occasionally. You get it as far back as
version of it.
Yeah,
the light
you get it
version
as far
of
back as Arc of Infinity, when Tegan is like, I cannot do this anymore.
Yeah.
And again in what was it, Resurrection of the Daleks, where she finally is like, no, I literally cannot do this. I cannot follow you anymore.
So we have Victoria in Fear from the Deep.
Yeah.
She has that, like, I'm tired of being chased by monsters.
Yeah.
But this one is like they've touched on, even in Modern Who. Oh, Sarah Jane, you left me. All these traumas in the end of the final Jodie. Oh, but this is what it really looks like. Yeah. And I think he really wanted, I think Davies told Peter, there are no guardrails. show what traveling with the Doctor for this companion has done to this companion. Do not hold back. I will tell you, and Julie and Jane will tell you if you have crossed a line. This was giving your writer, someone you trusted, because Davy's name's not on this. His name was on the last one. He didn't help. I have a feeling he didn't touch this one. I think he gave Peter, he's worked with Peter before. Peter's done other things for him. And boom, he said, I want you to show that. This is what I want to feel. This is your message, but I want, and then or he just did it as a gift to Millie, because it is a gift to her as an actress. I mean, it's painful. It was probably hard for her to play, but this is why actors become actors.
And I wonder if RTD had something to do with the writing of the Doctor and Conrad scene. That felt very
I agree.
This author's voice,
and he is very much in charge of the fiction of Doctor Who. So you know, I wouldn't go that far. That was completely hands off. But I get what you're going for, and that has to do also with the going too far.
The script editing on this. But the story is all Pete Mattar,
because he normally does a rewrite. He believes in. I mean, I don't think he does it like he did in the original time, because it almost killed him. If you've ever read that book between him and Benjamin Cook, it sounds like the most idiotic way to do a television show, but he did a good job doing it. But there is.
And I don't really have a problem with that.
Imagine the table read at this. I mean, I just can't. I mean,
they did show it a little bit
Because
the Stefan Powell Unleashed, and everyone was gasping at the twist moment.
This actor who played I pulled up the screen, but I didn't check it. The actor that played bad Conrad, evil Conrad.
His name is Jonah Hauer King.
I want to see him more. I think he did. He did a great job too, because it's two totally different parts. And he doesn't broadcast shit. You know, if whatever hints and clues are visual or ticks.
He does play a very good poker face.
It's I think he just decided he probably Peter Hoare and him said, he goes, I'm gonna play it like I don't know about the twist. Mm-hmm. And that's all I can do is pretend, play it.
There are lots of men who do that in real life as well, though. They play the nice guy until they get into a relationship with someone, and then they groom them. It's grooming is what it is.
It is really and
it does feel like he's trying to do that, because he does several times invoke wanting to play the Doctor role for Ruby. He does it several.
It's like a kink.
He's like, I can be the Doctor. I want to be brave like the Doctor. When they're walking out towards the crucial moment, he's even sort of wearing a third David Tennant Doctor style long checked coat, and I'm like, he's constantly and it's not just a visual thing. Like, he is always saying, I want to be the Doctor for you.
It's intentional. I think
which is disturbing.
As an abuser,
also.
It's very it's so intentional. Like when she says, am I your boy? He asks, am I your boyfriend? And she goes, well, let's see how this weekend goes. And he just goes, I'm your boyfriend, and walks off. And is it because he's happy, or is this like, yes, this is going to go exactly how as I planned, you fucking stupid bleep bleep.
And that's the thing, is like 10 seconds later is when the sign glitches. So he knows the bus, like all of this is planned. He knows the bus schedule. He's having his buddies flick the switch as soon as the bus like lets them off. And so that he's like, okay, when we wander under this, he's told them the route. Like this is all planned. It's so insidious.
Okay, I have a question. What I'm thinking about, is that supposed to be Devil's End, or was that Devil's End? Is that a nod to Devil's End about the beer? I felt a third, like a old unit story about that the Doctor had been to that pub or something.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Maybe it's just any old.
I did like that setting though.
Yeah, I just maybe it was just really a wink to that, because this is, as you said, this is a 70s unit plot.
Yeah. Very
much so, just without having to look over your shoulder, like Barry going, "How make it more allegory? Make it more allegory." Okay, that's as far as you can go. But
before we get off Millie really quick, I want to say something about, because you were talking about her performance, and for me, like the critical Millie moment in this episode came in the pub, so that's why it brought back to mind. I think it was in the pub. It was on one of their dates. In any event, is when she's telling him about the shriek, or they're talking about it, and they almost like up the pathetic fallacy. And this is definitely a directorial choice, because as she's talking, she's telling him, oh, it's definitely when they're on the first date in the city, because the lights start to flicker, the hand of the shriek comes from his, like, it's not actually happening, but the way she's telling the story, it gives her such, but it's giving her such dramatic agency over the world. It's saying, like, she's so good at acting, at conveying the story, that again, the world around her is changing to sort of show us this. And I feel like that was a directorial choice, because it's not obviously actually happening, but it's sort of underscoring in a way that, people will often say, Murray Gold is telling me how to feel. Like, I feel like the director in this case is, but he's not telling you how to feel. He's just supporting Millie's performance in a way that really heightens and shows what she is capable of as an actor. And I feel like that for me was the critical Millie performance in this episode, was that scene where she is taking him through what it's like to be with the doctor, and like everything is sort of combining to like give you that feeling, that sense. I really, really loved that scene. So I just wanted to say that part, because that really, I just found that, like, for me, it was the best part of her performance, was that sequence.
On a lighter note, anyone fancy watching Ghostbusters? Because seeing those devil dogs from Ghostbusters was a real treat for me as a child of the 80s.
Yeah. Well, I like that they were physical. It wasn't, they really didn't rely on a lot of CGI for them. I like that. I liked it.
Well, all those long shot bits, it would have been those actors in costume, those costumes that they're wearing. It's very clever.
It's really cool if you watch the again, Stefan Powell Unleashed. It's really like it's so finely done, the detail, because they make the creature costumes, and then they had a dude look at the creature costume for like 15 minutes, and they're like, now design it, without seeing it, like only having seen it for 10 minutes. And those were the ones that they made for the cosplayers. And I'm like, the details again are so just like a little bit off. Like, he got the idea of it, and you can see in their performance that the real shriek is very sort of low and splayed and close to the ground, where the cosplayers are more sort of dog-like. It's really that those details are so fine, they're so delicate. So I just wanted to get that in there because you mentioned it.
They're just such fine things. It's like, to make this hurt more is to see her moms and Gran. Oh, he's so sweet, he's so nice. Build up that finally she's been in the doldrums. She's been, something's been off since the end of the world and the reset and everything she's been through. Let's make her happy. She's at the happiest moment she's had since before she met the doctor.
Yep.
And then the switch. So, I mean, there's nothing wasted in this episode ever. There are little things to clue you in, but they're not bang, bang, bonk, bonk on the head. And every moment is earned. And like, I agree with Jeff. I don't know if I can, this is not like, oh, I feel like watching Doctor Who today. I feel like watching Lucky Day because I want to feel triggered. Or, I mean, I might go, hey, watch this with, maybe I told my wife, go ahead and watch it, but she maybe watch it with me. But I told her this morning, I wish you had been here, because it was really triggering. And she would have been like, she would have like you, because I will go off on these cases, and she has to take me to the weeds, because I hate these fuckers. And I've been bitching about them since way before it got bad. I have my thing with social media is, don't listen to these fuckers that think they know what they're talking about. They're attacking the press because the press is telling the truth, because they have to talk about who, when, where, and how, and why. Okay. That meme, anti-vaxxers doing their homework, and it's someone on their phone taking a shit on the toilet. You're not that fucking smart. These guys, like Elon's not as smart as he fucking thinks he is. He's a cuckoo. There's this British psychiatrist. He used to play in the NBA. I cannot remember his name, but he talks about it. And he's a guy who does about work wellness. And he says, I hate Elon Musk, and I don't want to hate people, but he's a cuckoo. He steals things. He goes into the nest, kicks out the founders, and then takes credit for everything. He's never invented a thing in his house. I wish I knew the name of the comedian, but he's talking to PJ Hopkins, and he says he's a 3 who had surgeries to get him to a 5, and he was hoping for an 8 because he'll never be a 10. And he's doing it all because no one wanted to fuck him, and there was a reason, because you're a 3. And these people are just, and the actor plays that soullessness. You are empty
he does
of
it
any
so well.
human integrity. You are so myopic. Everything is about what's in your head and not the real world. And those people really aggravate me and will make me go off on a tangent, which I'm fighting not to right now, because I just want to bang them in the fucking head. If I was in the same room with RFK Jr., I would be in jail because I would punch him in the face because he's insane. And it's just he's going to get people killed.
And it's definitely one of the things that's most upsetting to me about this episode also is that I'm not a violent person by nature, and I don't like to have hate in my heart. And seeing stuff like this just inflames those feelings, and it makes me feel, it's that stupid cliche thing that they say on every TV show that's ever been made. If you do this, you're no better than they are. And I'm like, I think about that, and I'm like, even he says it at the end, is like, Conrad says, you feel you're so superior, looking down on us or whatever. But like, I don't want to feel those things. That's not, I don't know. It just makes me feel, it makes me feel those things in myself.
Yeah. I mean, I have
that intolerance.
No,
the other flipping hashtag is so much for the intolerant left, or so much for the tolerant left. And I'm like, that's not what this is about.
I know, but it's the way it triggers with me is like, I haven't been in a fight since 8th grade. But I tell my wife is, if someone harmed you, there's no doubt in my mind that I could respond violently. I have a lot of rage in me. We all do. It's an emotion, and you learn to control the bad emotions. And there's a little bit of my dad in me, though. When I couldn't go to Gallifrey during COVID, I was really upset. I thought it was the only time I was going to go. I was real upset. And Vic goes, do you want to go in the airport with those brainless morons that are out there? What will happen if someone accosts some Muslim woman in hijab? What will happen, Ross? And I said, my father will come out in me, and I will be between them, saying, and because that's, that instinct to stand between somebody was ingrained in me, that you do that when someone's being attacked, you don't have to find them. You have to stand between them and let the other person know you're coming through me. And you are not going to harm this person, because they are harming people. Their intent is to harm people.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't want to save the world. He wants to do harm to people who don't believe what he believes, who are other than him. He wants to cause harm. And it's just enraging. And, one reason I wish Leslie's like, are you okay? It's like, yeah, because there are times my wife works in a very hostile work environment. And I've told her, I'm not, what the fuck? Phone? Jesus. But, it could enrage that's their intent, is to enrage you.
And it's one of the things where I was reading this week about, what's going on in here in the US this week. And they were saying during the first administration, there was a sort of catchphrase or a byword that the cruelty is the point. The cruelty is the point.
It is.
And now in the second, but this is the thing, is now with the second one, it's shifted where cruelty is the baseline. And that is a different thing. It's a different thing. Like, to shock is one thing. To be cruel as the foundation of what you're doing is a different thing. And one of the things that I fear on a daily basis, and it's something, again, that happens in this episode, is that the longer the episode goes on, the more that random characters resort to violence. Like, Conrad, on his way up the stairwell, kills or shoots Jordan Lang and takes his weapon. And they say that at the end too. It's like, you've already forgotten him. Like, you didn't even know his name and you shot him. Like, that
no one has a value other than him.
But this is the thing that I fear, and it plays out in this episode, is that the longer it goes on, the more people, even the scene where Ruby gets into the car and is being whisked to a safe house after the think tank people dox everyone in unit. Like, we haven't even talked about that. Like, they expose everyone's names, addresses, families to this stuff. Like, what happens to Cherry? What happens to the Sunday family? Like, are they whisked away to a safe house? What is the aftermath of this like for them continuously? But like, someone throws an egg at her window, and I'm like, even that hits differently in 2025 with, you know, the whole egg prices debacle that continues to rage unabated here in the US. But again, the point is that the longer this goes on, the more violent it gets. Yeah. And we really haven't had that yet. And I'm so terrified that it's coming. I'm so terrified that the violence
as the only coming. One who, as I remember the late 60s. We haven't gotten there yet. We're close. I mean, I remember the violence. I remember it. I was a little kid, but I remember the fear. This was a very gray world as a child. People go, what was your childhood like? It was the late 60s, early 70s. The world was a shithole. The country smelled like garbage. All these things they're redoing, we haven't happened. It hadn't happened yet, but it's going to happen because they show his followers don't give a shit. No matter how much the truth is told, they don't care. And that's what, I mean, it's again, why it's so well done. They show everything, but it's not, I see where we're at. And I think it's meant to make us think about it. And maybe, you know, the people who are watching this are already on the right side, I would hope. I hope there were no Doctor Who fans that were rooting for evil Conrad.
You'd be surprised, I think.
I mean, it also shows you how quickly
well, I'd be surprised, and I wouldn't be surprised, I guess, is that right?
Because for me, that's what's so appalling about that big social media takeover scene is they show all of the people who are sharing and talking about it on social media, and it's not just white men, you know, and that's the hardest. God. That's the most. That when for me is really the most disturbing.
Into other groups, and they start adding to their coalition of. You know, why can't I have an opinion about science? Because you can't add that high. Well, that's the bitter me, and it's like I don't want to tell you something about science. I'm not that smart. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's the messaging and the communication. It's been the whole problem with the entire rise of the right wing over the past couple of decades is that they can stir up the base with a 3-word slogan, you know, and that's what's hard about, you know, even their sort of triumph at the end is that Shirley is like, oh, I stand with UNIT is a hashtag now. And I'm like, for how long? How long is it until they turn against you again? Like, what is the next 3-word slogan that's going to turn people against?
Yeah, it's all about the fucking hash. Yeah, it's rough. All right. Is there anybody else? Have we not touched on anything? Yes. Did I miss something?
I'm so sorry to all of our listeners that I've been so sort of demoralized by this episode because there were things that I found very funny, and I love Pete McTighe for this.
Thank you.
Yes, I needed some lightheartedness here because the Vlinks is one of my co-MVPs for this episode. The fact that when the shit started, he's like, I'm out.
The humans are at it again. Bye-bye.
And my other co-MVP, and it's hard because I feel like she should be the MVP, is Cherry Sunday, the grandmother.
She's such a dirty old woman.
Yeah, she is so hilarious. She's like, I'm telling you about English villages, and I thought she was going to go sort of like the way that I always go with this, which is like, you know, they'll look at you weird, like they'll treat you odd.
Oh yeah,
and then the mother's like, she just watched The Wicker Man.
That made me. I had to go back. And say, did you just say The Wicker Man?
Or when Carla and Ruth and Cherry are Instagram stalking Conrad and looking at his shirtless photos.
That's what I meant. Granny had the hots for him. I thought that was very funny.
I think my MVP line.
And that for me is like, I wanted that moment. I'm like, I wanted the entire Dr. Light episode to just be Ruby and Cherry like going off, like playing the dozens. Like I would have loved that. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Jeff.
My MVP line for the episode is absolutely, well, who put you in charge? Well, go out for a walk and see how long you last, big boy.
That too.
Perfect.
So funny. Oh my God.
So, I mean, overall, this was a great hour of television. For me, it was a great hour of television. It was probably one, if Doctor Who episodes as meaningful, more, television
impactful. Yep.
Yeah, it is very much that. And I don't think it's talking down. I don't think it's messagey. I think it's showing you the world unfiltered and wants you to see it so you can try to be better. That's all we can hope for when they tell us these stories, that we go out and go, I'm at least going to be a positive thing on this planet and be the best I can, because that's all I can control.
Yeah.
But
I feel like Kate
it's rough. I'm not going to be watching it anytime soon unless Leslie wants to watch it with me, and I will just muscle down and do it, because I'd like to hear her take on it, because she's, as I said, she's working in a toxic work environment right now.
But that's the great thing, is that it does also show you those alternatives. It's community, it's family, it's found family.
Family.
That for me is like that part where Shirley's like, you've got two mothers now. Are you collecting them? And like, yeah, why not? Like that's supportive, older female like perspective. Like there's such a matrilineal, matriarchal sort of push in this episode. Women who are in charge and at various stages of their life in various generations.
I do, yeah.
And it also,
I like that about this era so far. That that all the family leaders and all the leaders are women.
Women, yep. And it also underscored for me just how much and how impactful Verita Satu has been, because I missed her. I missed her this episode. And I'm like, I wanted to hear from her so badly this episode. And I don't know. I don't know how other people felt about that, but like this really, really made me miss her.
Yeah,
it was great. As great as Ruby was, and like she's great. But like,
and I watched her. I'm watching Andor, and she's in that, and her character's fun arc ended, and I was like, oh fuck.
Thought about that too.
Yeah. So it's like, God, I'm glad I've got more of her. But this, I'm glad. I'm just happy Millie got to shine. It just I feel for her as someone she's very young. Is she 20 yet? Or barely 20? Yeah, it's just, Jeff, your final thoughts?
Yeah. Essential TV. But yeah, I think I can happily know that I've watched it, appreciated it, and understood it, and I don't really need to do that again. I don't need to do that to myself again. I can't imagine people binge watch years and years, like every 6 months, and go, let's sit down and watch this all through again.
Clockwork Orange is like that for me. It's like I don't need to watch that again. I'm dead.
Exactly. Or 6 Feet Under.
Yeah, it's I've seen it, I've done it. I'm glad Doctor Who did it, but I want something a bit more Doctor Who-y next week rather than a bit more.
I think
it looks like it's going to be as
well, giant spiders, man. I'm all on board. I saw giant spiders. It's Doctor Who. What's Doctor Who without a giant
machine steampunk-esque space spiders?
I gasped when I saw that too.
100% down with that, because I love a spider.
All right. So we'll go. I'll start with Jeff first, because we're going to be finishing up. Any recommendations?
Not in a specific sense. My recommendation is if this episode left you impotent with rage and you need a catharsis, put on your favorite angry albums. Listen to good music. For me, it's metal, it's punk, and it's music that speaks and lets you have a little bit of a release.
Yeah,
have like some you time. That's my recommendation for this week, is have some you time.
How about you, Melvin?
Not dissimilar. I want to recommend an album that doesn't fuel my anger or lead to that, but like does sort of still has the catharsis element to it, which is on the opposite side, not necessarily opposite, but like complementary side, is like listen to music that you love, listen to music that makes you happy, listen to music that makes you feel connected. And for me, like, this is very on the nose, but it's also very on brand. One of my favorite singers, songwriters, Jen Wasner, who I always talk about as Flock of Dimes, has another band called Y Oak, WYEOAK, and they had a record that celebrated a 10-year anniversary last year called The Shriek. and that is a great album, and it's completely on brand. So like, we didn't really talk about the Shriek a lot as a villain, but like, what a cool idea to like sort of embody that primal scream, that the rage we've been talking about. Like, there's something really reactive and instinctive and unfiltered about naming your monster the Shriek in an episode of this nature, and I really appreciated that too. So yeah, Wyoke 2014 album The Shriek, it's really beautiful.
Well, I was going to do a different one, but I'm going to swing to music. I've been listening to a lot of Warren Zevon for the last few days because he's finally been inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as an influence, because he may have only had one or two hits, but he wrote a ton of hits for other people and was one of those musicians who was a hero to others. And he died too soon. And he was much more than Werewolves of London and Roland the Headless Humpson Gunner and all his other songs. There's a song of his on his last album when he was dying. He brought all his friends together and did a final album. And one of his songs on it, I've told my wife, if you play any song at my funeral, it is that song. And it's about, will you remember me when I'm gone? When you feel the breeze against the buttons on your blouse, that is me walking by. And it's powerful. And he was a powerful songwriter, had a hard life. And I've been listening to it. I'll probably listen to some more. Found some rarities of his I've never heard, like unused tracks of Werewolf of London, his hits, from when he was young, when he was the drunkest human being I've ever seen on. My brother saw him live, said it's the drunkest he's ever seen a human being. And he was still playing the piano. He had horrible alcoholism problem. But there are videos of him doing shows, and he's drunk as hell, and there's this cups of liquor on his piano, and he's just chugging and still performing. But it makes me feel better because he does, for all his serious these type of people songs, there's so many songs about love and connection and how sometimes that connection can be painful. So, but I've been listening to a bunch of it just in almost a loop since he was inducted. So it was your time. My brother, one of my brothers, the brother who gave me my first two Warren Zevon cassettes when I was in high school, was like, but he didn't get it as an artist. And I went, he got it as an influence. That's
Doesn't
pretty
matter.
impressive.
If you're in, you're in.
And he's going in with Salt and Pepper. I love it.
And
the other
Outkast.
influence this year is Salt and Pepper.
And Outkast.
He would love that. Yeah, he would love that. Him and Salt and Pepper are the influences of rock and roll being inducted. He would find that fucking hysterical. He was I loved it when he would guest on Letterman. And it made me, God, if you have ever seen it, before he died, they did an episode where he was the only guest on David Letterman. They knew he was dying. And he talked about it. He talked about how the tumor was found on that episode. And they asked him, what would you tell someone? Or what you're going to what would you miss? And he goes, a great sandwich. He's such an odd man, but they videotaped him recording it. His twin grandchildren were in his daughter's womb when he was dying, and he didn't live to see them born. I don't think he just missed it. But his music has always been something that I'll go to for just I need to unscramble my brain. I want to hear his sad songs because it helps me just process. So I think that music is a good one for this. Anything to kind of cleanse your palate, help you translate what this episode was meant to make you feel. So, all right, guys, thank you as always. I knew this was going to be a great conversation. I felt it because when I watched it, I went, "Oh, I'm so glad I'm doing this with Jeff and Melvin because I need it. This is our companion support group after this episode."
Yeah. I've definitely said it on our Signal chat, but I'm so happy that Doctor Who is back. I'm so happy to have these weeks and knowing that I'm gonna that I have this to look forward to, and knowing that there's a community of folks out there that that we're reaching, like Millie. I know, shout out to Millie again. I know she's listening. I know Ian's out there listening. I just know that folks are out there listening. So I'm just so glad to be able to have these chats and to be able to hear from people who are getting something out of it. Because I mean, I treasure these moments. So thank y'all.
Yeah, I will say this. I scrolled a little bit through Blue Sky, which is the only one where I actually read stuff. I mean, other things I post for my podcast, it's just like advertising for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Or I communicate with some of my comic guys through Instagram because they're not on Blue Sky yet. But that for people who aren't enjoying this era, they like this episode. It was pretty much, I saw, and no one was outright, but I mean, it is Blue Sky, so everybody's a little more positive. There are people who don't agree with me, and it's pleasant, and sometimes I don't agree, but they're not, I don't see any real bad. This one made me go, I think this one affected everybody, good or bad, but no one is bashing it because there's no reason to, because it's just so well made. And it is, it's going to be one of those ones we talk about for years and go, how many times you've seen it? Once.
Yeah.
But,
and you can talk about stats
and
you can talk about stats or viewership or whatever you want. But like the fact of the matter is, when I saw Robot Revolution, I kept looking at the internet, or when, with the week that aired, like I looked at the internet all day, and it was never spoiled for anything. But like you say, it has escalated to the point where you were talking about the Jodie cosplayer, Katie, getting on early in the morning and saying, look, don't watch this, don't look at the internet until you. So regardless of whatever the numbers say, the fact is that it feels like momentum on the internet spaces is growing by the week, that this is in one way or the other, however people are consuming Doctor Who, it is becoming must watch TV, it's really heartening for me.
Yeah, let's hope it's enough that Disney wants to cop out some more money and they kind of do another one. Or I don't want them to pause. I mean, I understand a pause, but I'm just hoping they don't do something stupid. And well, God, Jesus Christ.
And we still have
media companies aren't doing some of the brightest stuff right now.
And so we still have the Sea Devil stuff to look forward to, which I feel like some of those.
Well, they gave a hint. Where's
here.
Mel?
Yep.
She's dealing. Yep. There's something going on in
the Sydney Harbor.
Yep. All right. At least,
Yep.
Well, this is also, I was watching Josh Nair's review of this morning, and he kind of agreed on some of the stuff we said, and he really liked it. But he also pointed out that about the Kate thing is, she's most likely the star of that show, and it was nice to see her shine in this because she will be the driving force of that show. And well, we're also getting a preview of that cast. I don't know if Millie's not in it, but Ruth is in it, Mel in it, so makes me feel in good hands.
Yeah.
Isn't Peter McTeague working on it too?
I think so.
Yeah, I think he's one of the
writers.
I hope he's one of the showrunners too. It'd be a good idea. Yay for Peter McTeague. Just bravo, brother. Bravo.
Yeah, Pete McTeague actually killed it this episode.
Yeah, just rocked it.
But before we finally sign off, since you're talking about podcasts and since we've been talking about community and stuff like that, I want to make sure and shout out the Track One podcast and the Flight Through Entirety Second Great and Bountiful Human Empire podcast. Like those have kept me sustained during these non us talking about it weeks. Like, again, the weeks are there. It feels like life is getting harder and harder, and to know that you've got really great podcasts to look forward to dropping throughout the week on the latest episode, it's so encouraging. It makes me feel like a part of a wider discourse and community and discussion.
I'm waiting until the season's over, and then those are two podcasts I'm going to go back and then listen to their takes. I kind of want to wait. I don't want another podcast kind of that. I watched Josh Nair's review. It was kind of odd because I've avoided other people's opinion. I don't want to, before we chat, I don't want any influence.
Yeah.
I kind of want, because get another thank you to you guys. I think in some ways these last two new seasons of Doctor Who have been some of the best podcasts at this show I've ever done for this podcast since 2017, including all the great ones I did with Vic. It's just these two seasons. It's been a joy, and I think we're doing interesting stuff, and I'm glad Millie and other people are listening and getting a lot out of it. It's nice to see that reaction. I like that I posted the show episode, but to get a comment and stuff like that is just amazing, because I think
really cool.
These are great conversations, and I'm glad we had it. I feel like a burden is lifted. I feel like I'm coming out of my coming out of an AA meeting, and I'm feeling like I'm jonesing for a drink, but I'm not going to oh, this makes me want to go watch Turn Left.
No, it definitely makes me want to go walk my dog and spend the day outside. not looking at TV at all.
It was free comic book day, which also means big sales. My other recommendation this week is in America, we're going to start have shortage on shit.
Yes.
And also, I think I'm seeing stuff in Warner Brothers is starting to pull, and CBS canceled 3 shows with African American led casts.
Yep.
That were critically acclaimed.
Yep.
That is a direct reflex of not of the quality of the show, but of they're afraid that they will be busted for DEI.
Yep.
Folks, for me I was happy to go to Free Comic Day and see my local comic shop full of people spending money for Pat, who owns it.
Yep.
He makes how he makes his living. And it's about to be a downturn. So folks, if you're a Doctor Who fan and you're like me, I have to have the physical media because I don't trust streaming, because I use it to watch Doctor Who sometimes, but they like to move this stuff around. They like to, you buy it online, doesn't mean you get to keep it. They may have said that, but any day they can just take it away from you because you don't have control of it. Amazon doesn't let you download your Kindle stuff anymore.
Yep.
Nope. So if they ever cancel Kindle, everything you paid them for is gone. So physical media. So if you're going to do that, don't buy it from Amazon. I use Amazon for certain things, but when I buy comics and stuff, I go to standalone. I mean, they're like, I get trades and other that. I go to either eBay or someone who's selling it for themselves, or I go to companies like In Stock Trades, cheap graphic novels, organic price books, because I can get it cheaper than even Amazon. But that's it. Like In Stock is probably 8 or 9 employees.
Yeah, and I was going to say one of the other sides of that coin is shop small, shop local. Like it's going to make
for me, it's over the internet, but I know that they said during Black Friday they had to double their staff to 20.
But yeah, no, tariffs haven't even hit, and the tariffs haven't even really hit yet.
Oh, they won't.
The small business that I've been working for the last 7 years, just a couple of days ago, told me that I've got reduced hours and reduced pay for the time being, which again, like it's coming.
It's coming.
So it's
coming.
Shop
It's
small,
going to be ugly.
local.
Yeah, they said stocks have rebounded, but that's just temporary because it's about 2 months, and we're going to have 99% of all ibuprofen that U.S. uses comes from China.
I'll add a third voice to that. Also, support record stores, support independent music shops, and support the local bands that you enjoy, because these guys are all just trying to make their way in the world.
Buy their albums, their CDs and stuff, because they're not making any money off us. I'm going to start doing that again. I haven't done that with music because I don't have a turntable or a stereo. Everything comes through my ears and my phone, because me and my wife have very different musical tastes. I'm old. She's not. But yeah, physical media, support your artists, because that's the only way they're going to get money. Buy it from them, especially like I'm a big follower of any band on Instagram, because that's their messaging. And I found some like the Lemons, which I love them. And I'm way too old to be listening to them because they're like 8 years old, it seems like, I'm old enough to be most pop stars' granddad, or as my employees call me, Pop. So, all right, folks, as always, thank you, gentlemen. And everybody out there, thank you for listening. And as always, we look forward to seeing you somewhere in time or space. Cloud, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Did you do a screen grab yet, Melvin?
I do
randomly do
it periodically. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Make sure you can see all of Conrad.
Yeah.
He can be our.
We'll all lean to one side.
I got a few different ones.
Okay. Every time he says the name, we say the name Conrad, Jeff, you just move.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, hello and welcome. Fuck. And I'm not even high anymore. I smoked a joint at 4:30 in the morning because the dog woke me up to take a shit, and I said, fuck it. I smoked a joint while I walked the dog. No one out in the outside.
I feel like that should be the tag always.
I'll put that in the tag.